A young girl disappeared in Ireland in 1997. She is closely related to being one of the missing women of the Vanishing triangle. However, she was a child and the prime suspect in the case died in 2017, likely dying with a dark, unforgivable secret. Today's case brings us to the County Louth in Ireland and to the town Dundalk. It lies on Ireland's north-east coast. Dundalk is positioned between Dublin and Belfast. Once nicknamed El Paso during the conflicts between the UK and Ireland. The Irish Republican Army would use Dundalk as a place to lay in wait for the British Army to come through the Belfast border. But this conflict is a story for another day. The whole county is filled with history and coastal beauty, with something for everyone who visits. From fun in the water in Carlingford to discovering ancient settlements, the locals are welcoming and friendly. If you find yourself in Louth, be sure to visit the Carlingford Adventure Centre. You won't be sorry. Ciara Breen was born in 1979 and she is from the town Dundalk in County Louth. Before she was born, her parents split up and her father moved to America, while her mother Bernadette moved in with her parents to help raise Ciara. This was up until March 1996 when they finally could move out and have their own space, even if it was only around the corner, to a place called Bachelor's Walk, but it still was their own space and a place they could call home. Ciara had no contact with her dad, but as she got older she became curious and she wanted to know more about her father and where he was and what he'd done. When Ciara was 16, she would rebel against her mother and she ran away from home, only to come back a few days later, something she would never likely do again. Her and her mother Bernadette held a special bond and they were really close. It was just the two of them. Ciara was described as a sweet and polite young girl. Her friend described her as shy, and she said she was very conscious about her teeth. She would cover her mouth with her hand when you would talk to her. She left St. Vincent's Secondary School in 5th year and would attend an early school leavers course where she would learn computers and other life skills. She loved makeup and especially eye makeup, and she wondered if maybe one day she could become a beauty technician. On the 13th of February 1997, Ciara and her mom Bernadette were out at the local cafe for some dinner. This was at around 6:45 PM. They finished up, came home and watched some TV while talking to each other. Ciara's mother Bernadette had an appointment in Blackrock, Dublin the next day, as she would then receive the results of a previous cancer checkup. The pair would stay up all night talking about what the check might come back as, and Ciara had asked if she was worried, to which Bernadette said she wasn't too worried, and this put Ciara at ease. They both then finished up their night at around 12:25 AM. Ciara said, "Mammy, I love you," and they went to bed. And this would be the last time Bernadette would ever see or talk to her daughter Ciara again. Before Ciara disappeared, she had some concerns on her mind. She was body conscious like any other teenage girl, but she was also worried about her mother's appointment and what the results would be and how it would affect him. She said that day to her tutor at her early school leavers course that she wanted to go home and make the house nice and tidy for her mum, to make her feel comfortable before her appointment. She also had to get her upper teeth reset due to issues with her gums. And these were some of Ciara's concerns before she disappeared. During the middle of the night, around 2 a.m, Bernadette got up to go to the toilet, and she decided to go in and check on Ciara. When she went into her room, she noticed the window was left off the latch, and Ciara was not in the bed or the room. Now, this wouldn't be the first time Ciara had snuck out her bedroom window, so Bernadette, she wasn't worried, as Ciara would always return. So she sat there waiting in her room for her to come back home, so she could give her a stern talking to, and warn Ciara of the dangers in the dark. But she never arrived home. The following morning, Ciara still didn't return, and Bernadette had to go to her appointment, and her dad drove her there. The whole drive with her dad, Bernadette didn't mention anything about Ciara, and she assumed Ciara would be back home when she returned from her appointment. But she was beginning to get a little worried. During this appointment, her doctor broke the terrible news to Bernadette that they had found cancer cells. She didn't react at all, and her doctor later commented stating he was very surprised at how calm she was when he told her. But what he didn't know was she was too focused and now very worried on where her daughter Ciara might be. On the way home from the appointment, Bernadette told her dad that Ciara had snuck out last night and that she hadn't yet come home. And hopefully, when they arrived back home, she would be back. But when they arrived to the house, she was nowhere to be seen. And Bernadette then reported her missing to the Gardaí, and she explained the whole situation. There was a forensic examination done on the house of Bernadette and Ciara, and this found that there was a ground floor window adjacent to a main road, and it was left opened. Having been opened from inside the house, suggesting Ciara had left the window open so she could sneak back into the house later that morning. The Gardaí then done a public appeal for any information on Ciara's whereabouts. With this, they received information Ciara was in a secret relationship with a much older man. And this relationship had been going on months, according to Ciara's friends. And the man was in his 30s, while she was just 17. This man named Liam Mullen would be known to Bernadette, as he dropped by her house before, trying to strike up a conversation with her daughter in her front garden. Bernadette would tell him to stay away from her daughter. However, in interviews, he claimed he didn't know Ciara. But when Ciara's friends were interviewed, they told a totally different story. They said that the suspect had been watching Ciara and their group of friends at a takeaway restaurant just a few days prior to her disappearance. And this was not the first time they spotted him watching them. He had approached them on previous occasions and was known as a creep by the group. And while they were in the takeaway restaurant, he was seen to be in deep conversation with Ciara and was overheard asking her if he could see her later. And Ciara replied saying, "I'll sneak out my window when my mom goes to bed." Gardaí have rechecked the story numerous times, and their accounts remain the exact same as they did in the initial interviews in 1997. After they continued to question her friends, they gathered she met a young man from Kilkeel, County Down, at a disco in Carrickday. Eventually, this man was tracked down, but he had never seen Ciara after they had initially met. The investigation continued, with further witnesses coming forward in 1999 saying they had seen the suspect and Ciara together, in secluded places around Dundalk. Bernadette's neighbours also came forward, and they said they had seen Ciara kissing a man in the laneway behind their house 6 months before she went missing. With this, in September of 1999, Liam Mullen was interviewed, but was released later that day without charge. Liam Mullen was a 31-year-old man at the time of Ciara's disappearance, and he was a carer for a relative of his, and he was on Ciara's allowance for this, and he would have lived on this payment. He was known to have relationships with women that were way younger than he was, and a couple of his former partners said he physically abused them at times, and would stalk them when the relationships finally ended. Liam was one of few men who were questioned about Ciara's disappearance. 2 cousins who live a nomad lifestyle and were living near County Louth at the time of Ciara's disappearance were also investigated, as they were when Jojo Dullard, a young woman, went missing 15 months prior, and she was never found. And as per the Gardaí and an alibi from the pair, they were not involved in either case. And in the year 2000, Bernadette's mother moved out of her house on Bachelor's Walk, and she moved back into her parents' house, just around the corner. She couldn't even walk into Ciara's room anymore, and she thought it would be the best decision to leave the house. She left the house on what would be Ciara's 21st birthday, and she returned to her parents' house to care for her mother. 7 years after Ciara's disappearance, there was a fresh investigation, and the whole file on Ciara Breen was re-examined, along with the rejuvenated interest from the TV show Crime Call, where Ciara's story was told to the Irish public. The TV show examines unsolved cases in Ireland and is watched on by millions of people. This in turn led to the rearrest of the prime suspect, who once again refused to talk. The Gardaí received an anonymous call from a person, and the call said they would find Ciara's body in the bog at the old railroad track behind the brewery. Now, Gardaí had received a number of calls like this throughout the years, but this one stood out, as it was the second time the caller rang in, and he gave detailed information of the location. And the same caller was able to identify the prime suspect, Liam, and said he had told him where she was buried. Another witness came forward and said he spoke to Liam when he was drunk, and they had got into an argument, leading Liam to say, and I quote, "I will bury you in the bog where I buried the other one." This led the Gardaí to search the local bog area on the 18th of August 2015. 4 acres of the bog were searched by the Gardaí and the Irish Defence Forces, but unfortunately nothing will be recovered from this search, and it was called off. Now, interestingly, the prime suspect was seen walking up and down where the search took place. No new leads were followed up on, and the case remains unsolved, and Ciara's body has never been found. Bernadette Breen would then turn to a private investigator, but he failed to find any real leads. A file against the main suspect was sent to the DPP, thinking they had enough to warrant the prosecution, but they returned the file along with a firm answer of no, not enough evidence. And in 2017, Liam Mullen, 57 at the time, was arrested in Dundalk town on suspicion of drink driving, and he would die due to a suspected overdose in police custody. And in 2018, Ciara's mother Bernadette would unfortunately pass away, without bringing justice for her only child. Ciara went missing a month before her 18th birthday, and her mum Bernadette had secretly planned a trip to Disneyland, Florida, as a surprise for her. You see, they had been before the previous October and she loved it, and always said she wanted to go again. But unfortunately, Ciara would not make her 18th birthday. But still, Bernadette had fond memories of this trip, and she held it close to her heart. When Ciara snuck out her window that night, she was wearing a limited edition watch, which has never been found. The watch was one of 2,500 sold in Florida, and the watch was to mark the holding of the World Cup competition in the USA in 1994. It has a square face with a green background, featuring Mickey Mouse on the left hand side, and has a black leather strap. Ciara got the watch when she and her mother were in Florida at Disneyland, 4 months before her disappearance. Bernadette believes her daughter's case is not linked to the other cases relating to Ireland's Vanishing Triangle. And much like the previous cases, the town and police know exactly who done it, but with no evidence to hand down the deserved justice. Although now that the prime suspect is dead, real justice may never be served for Ciara. And like the previous cases we covered, without a body, it is hard to prosecute someone, even if there is a lot of evidence against them. If you have any information relating to this case, please contact the Dundalk Garda Station on 04 293 884 00. Thoughts go out to the extended Breen family. Maybe one day they can bring Ciara home for a proper burial. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.